Konnichiwa, hello, welcome to Fuji Speedway for the 6 hours of Fuji Round 4 of the 2018-2019 FIA World Endurance Championship Super Season as we head into qualifying, as ever, split into two periods. First for our GT contenders and then for our prototypes. 20 minutes. Each car in each class will have to cycle through two of their driver lineup, and it will be the total time set by the drivers, which is averaged out to give us our overall lap time. Stefan Mucke in the Ford Performance Garage, teammate Olivier Pla, and his teammates will also be getting ready to go. And there is already drama among some of our prototype teams. We'll get to that when we get to their situation. So we are round 4 of 8 of the Super Season. We've had races at Spa, at Lamorne and at Silverstone, and now Alan McNish at Fuji Speedway, and not just a fantastic circuit but a fantastic crowd here as ever. Hugely knowledgeable, polite, enthusiastic. Great place to come racing. And
massively energetic as well, Martin. But one thing that the fans are going to see this afternoon is a dry track, something that we didn't see last year. It was wet for qualifying and very wet for the race and foggy. But the circuit's dry and it's going to be fast. And I would suspect that we're going to see lap times in most of the categories, if not all, quicker than the 2016 fastest laps, which are the quickest laps around here in the World Endurance Championship.
Alrighty, well, Michael Christensen and teammate Kevin Escher there in the Porsche GT garage. The pro cars just outpacing the AM cars at the end of qualifying, at the end of free practice. Air temperature 15 degrees, that's about 3 or 4 degrees down on yesterday. Track temperature is 21 degrees, but that will be warmer than last year. As Alan says, it rained relentlessly last year. It's looking like we might have a bit of rain overnight, but hopefully a dry race. Because Al, in the last few years, well, we're coming here at the beginning of winter, really. It's mid-October, so like in Europe, you kind of expect it occasionally to be a bit wet.
Yeah, circuit 4.5 kilometres. It's really about 3 different sectors that you require a different car. On the first sector, the green sector there on the screen, it's all about aerodynamic efficiency, braking hard into turn 1 and then accelerating hard out of it. Sector 2 is downforce, sector 3 is the twisty bit, the mechanical grip, and so you'll see cars being strong in different sectors, and the real trick is trying to make it across the board in all 3, something that I would suspect is going to be a tricky thing for this qualifying session.
I just saw final adjustments being made to the Ford. They're refitting the hatch over the ejector seat, and we will go green in 7 minutes from now. Gulf Racing Porsche, fastest car in the GTE category throughout free practice 3. Mike Wainwright and Ben Barker, joined by Porsche Junior star Thomas Preining, man who currently leads the Porsche Super Cup title race. Andy Prio at the helm of the 67 Ford that he shares with Harry Tinknell.
That GTE Pro category is going to be very tight again. There was some changes with the regulations leading into this race, but the Fords have been strong, BMWs have been strong, the Ferraris have been there and thereabouts, and the Porsche was quickest in free practice 3.
At the end of free practice 3, there was a little bit of drama after the checkered flag for TF Sports AM class Aston Martin. Louise, it was a bizarre situation. What happened?
It really was bizarre. So a bit of rubber came off and hit the tiny little wire that's just by the windscreen that is attached to the fire extinguisher, which was then let off.
Yeah, so it triggered the fire extinguisher. What looked like smoke came pouring out of the bonnet. Driver Charlie Eastwood stopped, and then the marshals were trying to put out the fire with fire extinguishers, basically pouring in more fire extinguisher. Yeah. So it seems a bit of rubber, of which there is plenty on the track, thanks Louise, laid down by somebody else, was flicked up by the car in front. Yeah, it was a big clean-up, wasn't it? And
that's better than the option of it actually being a fire.
Yes.
And so from that perspective, it was the lesser of 2 evils. But it's actually something there, as you said, the rubber pickup is very extreme here, and on the start and finish straight, such a long straight, 1.45 kilometres, and halfway down, just with the natural speed that the tyres are revolving, they start to throw off the rubber, and then if you do get it, it's a big clump, and if it hits the windscreen, it's a fair old whack on the windscreen. So it doesn't surprise me that it surprised me that it's actually activated a fire extinguisher, but it doesn't if you think of the force that rubber's being thrown back at the car behind.
What we're saying about the speed in free practice 3 amongst the GT cars, 4 of the 5 makes led that session at various points, including the BMWs we're looking at now, and 2 of the 3 makes, GTM as well. So pretty close stuff. Whether or not that's going to be reflected with the ultimate lap speeds we're going to see in qualifying just coming up, different matter.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, one of the wrinkles of qualifying is in the AM class, you must have your lowest category rated driver. Bronze, silver, gold and platinum are the 4 standards, so they must go out as one of the 2 qualifying drivers. Most of the pro cars are 2 driver lineups, like the BMWs here. This is the car of Martin Tomczyk and Nicky Katzberg, but a lot of the AM class cars, the pro-AM category cars, have a 3 driver lineup. So you can't put your 2 hot shoes in and keep your gentleman driver dry. He has to go out and do his laps as well.
Yeah, and it's the gentleman driver that defines the grid position in the Pro-Am, because there's a bigger discrepancy there than between the pros, and we've seen that the case many, many times, and the pros actually standing up saying, well, to be honest, it wasn't me, it was him that did the job. But one pro that has stood out for me over the course of the weekend has been Matt Campbell, who was quickest driver in the AM category and did a very, very good job. Looks neat and tidy on the circuit, and young kid getting the job done.
Yeah, he's in that Dempsey Proton 77 car with Christian Reed and another junior driver, Julian Andlauer. So there's 3 top Porsche youngsters here, with Thomas Preining being the 3rd. And you're right, Matt Campbell, very quick, very neat and tidy, and did some very quick laps as well. So we're waiting for the clock to tick around to 2 o'clock local time, which will happen in just under 3 minutes. So first drivers already strapped into their cars. Most of the cars up in the air with no tyres on. Tyres are in the tyre warmers. Will come out at the last possible moment.
And then you've got the question, though, because of the track temperature being 21 degrees, quite cold air temperature, that you don't want to have the car sitting at the end of the pit lane, because it'll lose pressure and temperature very quickly in these conditions, and then you want to really have to work to try to get them back up again. So it will be as late as possible to bring them out, especially for these guys.
The way it works here, the logistics are behind the pits garage, there's a little walk through, and then in the paddock everybody has their tent with their tyre warmers and the ovens going full belt. Some of the teams, they also have to share that, as that's where they're eating as well, so that keeps them nice and warm when they're catering. Jurassic World just over the way, and plenty of opportunity to enjoy viewing all the way around this track. Out, you can walk almost all the way around this track, and there are some pretty spectacular viewing opportunities as well.
We saw a lot of it yesterday when we went out and looked in free practice 1 and a bit of free practice 2 as well, where you can actually see the camber and the altitude change of this circuit, something that you don't necessarily get from the television perspective. It's a little bit like Spa in that respect, where it sort of is deceptively fat on television, but deceptively difficult to climb up the hills when you're actually here. And the cambers as well, especially in the 3rd sector, are very tough. And in the car, some of the most frustrating corners you can come across. If you get them right and you've got a car balance, you can make a lot of time there. If you don't have a car balance and it's a difficult car to drive, then you can lose a lot of time in that final sector.
Well, that's the old adage, isn't it? Is you don't gain time on the quick corners, you gain most time on the slow corners, pro rata, don't you?
Well, you're in the slow corner for a longer time, so therefore, in theory, yes, you can. I've got to be honest with you, I tended to gain all my time in the quick corners, which was maybe just through stupidity as opposed to intelligence in the slow, one of the two.
Because you couldn't reach the brake pedal.
That's possible. Young camera man there, camera guy for the future, and fans down at the end of the grandstands for the big braking into the first corner.
Well, let's get down to the pits and hear from Louise Beckett.
For the moment, on the radar, there is no few chance of rain. So again, we have all the time to wait 1 or 2 minutes. Copy.
So Richard Leeds getting a little bit of information there. No chance of rain.
5,
wait 1 or 2 minutes.
4, 3, 2, 1. Qualifying for LMGT cars has started. Please remind drivers of the need of respecting track limits.
Well, first out into qualifying, the 98 Aston Martin GTE AM car, followed by the 2 Pro Fords and the TF Sport Aston Martin, the blue car, which is another of the AM cars. So is the Project 1 Porsche. And so it was Jimmy Bruni in one of the 2 factory Porsches that was getting the radio message. But clearly there is a threat of rain coming. We can't see it out of our window. Look like Jimmy Bruni's helmet. Obviously Richard Leitz is the man who's shown as being in the car, so there we go. Threat of rain, and half the sky is relatively light and the other half is really quite dark. So if we get dry GT qualifying and very wet prototype qualifying, Graham Goodwin, we've had that before where the fastest cars didn't qualify fastest because of the weather, but they still start them at the front, right?
Yeah, they will still start in class order, more or less, to actually keep it neat and tidy. It is another one of these circuits. We have a remarkable number of them around the planet that seem to have their own microclimate. We've seen in past years the weather rolls in from directly in front of where we're commentating from, at the top of the stand, from the range of hills. I've been listening to Mr. McNish. There are hills and not mountains directly in front of us, or over to our left. Weather fronts can come in from there. The locals would look to the end of turn 1 and the rolling hills in the foothills of Mount Fuji to be where the weather would normally come from. At the moment, I have to say, I'm not seeing anything that should give us concern through the period of this qualifying session.
Well, that's because we're looking at the departing nice weather. The nasty weather is behind us, as you say, coming over the top of Fuji-san. It's hiding behind Fuji-san right now, waiting to pounce.
And there's Christensen, the sister car to the one we had the radio message of, just going out to start his warm-up lap as the Ford 66, the Ford 67, 66 already gone wide. And already lost a little bit of lap. 67 looked like it was hitting the apex. In the 66 car we've got Muka, in the 67 we've got Prio.
That's his out lap though, right?
No,
that was his first flying lap already.
He'd already gone through.
Yeah,
so we're on board on an out lap, but behind them you've got the 2 Fords that are starting their lap. Harry Tinknell, who shares with Andy Prio, warming up. Jacket on because it is cold.
Livio Ply in the back. It's not that cold. It's definitely not jacket weather. Not for a Scot. It's T-shirt weather. Louise Beckett, what's the weather like in the pit lane?
I love that you know how warm or cold it is outside when you're tucked away in your lovely cosy comms box.
We're sweltering. Look over the back of the grandstand. Is it still dark behind our grandstand?
It's lightening up behind the grandstand, but there are dark clouds over the hills.
Okie dokie. Trouble in Dunbar Hills. Well, here is the 67 Ford. We saw that run out over the curbs on the first corner in the flying lap.
Yeah, and the quickest car at the moment, though, is Nicky Thiem in the Aston Martin, who's quickest in the first and second sector. The first lap, I would suggest that the 2 Fords are probably going to do their time on the second lap. But at the moment, the Aston Martin's actually given it one straight away from the off.
Purple final sector for Tom Blomqvist in his BMW as he warmed up to start a flying lap. Well, Fords at the moment, the first 2 cars to complete a flying lap. 138.3, 138.7 for 66 Muka and 67 Prio.
Here comes the team though.
Johnny Adam has just gone quicker than Andy Prio and has now been displaced by Nicky Thiem at the top of the pile.
Full 2 seconds quicker than the quicker of the 2 Fords. That lap from Nicky Thiem, a 136.410.
Yeah, but if you look at it, I think that the Fords were warming up as opposed to actually going for it. I would say there's different strategies in the way that they attack things in this qualifying session, with the 2 Fords, I would say, building up for the second lap being their prime lap, whereas certainly for the Aston Martin, it's straight out of the box and on with it.
Gulf Racing Porsche, you saw Ben Barker, that had gone second quickest, just been passed by the 77 Dempsey Proton car of Matt Campbell. Again, you talked him up as being very fast youngster, and he's proved that. He's the second quickest GT car at the moment. Although again, Aston Martin have gone quicker with the 95 car, Nicky Thiem. Tom Blomqvist at the top of the pile as Davide Rigon goes third in a Ferrari.
So Blomqvist at the top with the BMW, the number 82, the best of the 2 this morning in free practice 3, and Blomqvist does the same again. 15 minutes to go in the session.
Fastest car in free practice 3, which was 90 minutes long, was the 92 Porsche, ahead of the 67 Ford and the 95 Aston. 71 Ferrari was 4th quickest, the better of the 2 BMWs was 5th. So right now, BMW 82, Aston Martin 95, Porsche 91, that's Jimmy Bruni. And then the 71 Ferrari ahead of the 67 Ford. And the AM class cars, denoted by the orange backing to their number, and on the screen, 77 at the top of the pile, that's the Dempsey Proton car that you're looking at now with the blue highlights. The 88 Dempsey Proton car doesn't have the blue highlights.
And it's also just that it's lap deleted the 88 as well for abusing track limits at turn 4. Those curbs were taken away last night, and now people have been warned. And we heard Eduardo Freitas, the race director, as they drove out the pit lane about track limits, and there's already been a few cars pinged for that as well.
Yeah, the number 82 BMW, after setting what was the fastest lap, has been pinged on its next lap. Also, the 66 Ford has lost a flying lap. Nicky T, meanwhile, has gone quicker again, and he nudges Tom Blomqvist down to 2nd.
Yeah, by 0.3 of a second. No, by 1/10 of a second, not even. So Tom Blomqvist 2nd, Davide Rigon 3rd in the AM class, 77 ahead of 86, which has pitted. So Ben Barker has already done 1 flying lap and handing that over. TF Sport 3rd, Johnny Adam, the now 3-time British GT champion and winningest driver in British GT, as you look on board at the Ford.
And the Fords have just popped up a little bit, so now Muka's on the actual scoreboard after having his lap time deleted, but down in 8th, where his teammate Prio's up to 3rd. But half a second away from the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin and the BMW have sort of let loose, I would have said, when it's come to this qualifying.
Davide Rigon just lost his last lap as well for track limits. And the problem then is you can't just keep hammering away, because you've got to give your teammates some kind of tyre.
You've got to give him some type of time as well.
Yes.
Because it's quite a long lap in this respect, and it's very, very hard on that left front in qualifying. Left front takes a big pounding in qualifying. And here we see Ferrari coming to cross the start-finish line. Spirited race. Drops it in 3rd place in the category, but 8/10 away from the Dempsey Proton of Matt Campbell so far.
Another quick youngster, Giancarlo Fisichella, might have a future in motor racing.
Both factory Aston Martins on pit lane, driver changes underway, and a raft of BOP changes coming into this race meeting. And BMW, the recipients of the biggest one of those, told a delta of something like plus a second on a racing lap for the M8 GTEs. Big, handsome cars they are.
We just saw the 88 Dempsey Proton car. Matteo Cairoli goes 2nd quickest in the AM class. So 77, Matt Campbell set what is currently the fastest lap. Matteo Cairoli 2nd. Dempsey Proton Porsches 1st and 2nd in the class, ahead of the 86 Gulf Racing Porsche. Michael Wainwright has just left the pits in that to go and do his runs.
At the moment, 11.5 minutes to go in the session. Top 4 are all different manufacturers in GTE Pro. Aston Martin from BMW, Ferrari and Ford.
Tom Blomqvist handing over to Antonio Felix da Costa, or Afdak, as apparently he's known, because that takes just a fraction less time to say than Antonio Felix da Costa.
And Fisichella, talking about Spirit of the Race just a little while ago, he's also lost his lap as well. So he may be experienced, but he's experienced the off-track section of this Fuji Speedway.
So here's the 81 BMW.
Tell you what, the BMW, you see it there, the rear of the car moves up and down. It's got a lot of movement. It's not as taut in terms of the way they've got the car set up, the suspension, in comparison to, say, the Ferrari or the Ford. It looks as if it's certainly a much more pliable car with a lot more sort of movement in the whole suspension system.
Jimmy Bruni's just had a lap deleted as well. So that car, the 91 Porsche, in 6th position. He's in the pits now, handing over to teammate
Martin Tomczyk has just crossed the line, popped himself up 1 position, but 7th, and still quite a chunk away from his teammate Tom Blomqvist, who is now just coming out the pits, having changed over from Tom to Antonio Felix da Costa. 10 minutes to go, halfway through the session.
Saw the yellow and black Project 1 AM Class Porsche GDA Perfetti, I think, doing the first runs in that, and it's Jörg Bergmeister who'll do the second set of laps.
Final car to pit will be the 81, late into the session for the BMW. Two Fords just making their way down pit lane to effect their driver changes.
Bit of a scruffy run into the first corner there by Sorensen. Looks as if he had changed it, turned in a couple of times, and the front didn't quite get in. It's very difficult braking into the first corner, as we've spoken about on quite a few occasions, but Aston doesn't look as if it's quite as settled. Looks like it's quite sharp on initial turn, and then the rear sort of dancing around a little bit behind it. Certainly into turn 1 and also into the third corner, the quick third corner.
Just about getting away with the use of the curbs there.
Hey, I tell you what, it may be sharp, and it may not look as if it's too nice to drive, but it's quick.
It's not
very,
hanging around,
very
is
quick.
it? Yeah. 95 car fastest at the moment on one lap. Clearwater Racing Ferrari on an out lap. Sawa. Again, very, very slowly, even for an out lap.
This is quite a good lap here for the second driver coming through.
One green light on the side of the car, green indicating that it's a GTE Pro car, one light that it's first in class.
He's the first of the second drivers to complete a timed lap as well, being the average of two drivers. Gives you your fastest time and fastest average. So now Sorensen is 7/10 slower than his teammate was able to do, but if that's on the same set of tyres, then that's still a good time, because there's quite a lot of tyre drop-off around here. Fastest final sector of Sorensen there as well.
77 Deputy Proton car, Christian Reed at the wheel of that car. That's the one that set the fastest time with the first driver.
Next GT Pro car through to complete a second lap is the second Aston Martin, and it is Maxime Martin at the wheel of the 97 car, and he brings that car substantially further up the order at the moment.
Yeah, he went 4/10 quicker on that lap than Marco Sorensen managed. A 36.1 compared to Sorensen's 36.5.
Yeah, but it's 2/10 of a difference between the two of them on the grid as it sits at this moment in time.
Yeah.
As now we've got a few more of the cars coming through in their second driver runs.
Sally Yolok doing his first flying lap for TF Sport in the blue 90 AM Class Aston Martin. Louise Beckett, you might be able to shed a bit of light. What's happening down at Aston Martin?
Well, I was by the 97, and when Max got in, and they definitely changed to a new set of tyres. I didn't see for the 95, so I'll go and find out.
Thank you. Well, Alan, they're pretty restricted, the Pro classes, in how many tyres you can use for a weekend. It's only doing a lap or two here. And you've got to make sure that you don't flat spot them, because you are going to have to use them in the race.
Yeah, you've got 4 sets plus 2 spares, so basically 4.5 sets of tyres for qualifying and the 6-hour race, which means in the race you're going to have to double stint a set of tyres twice, and a stint will be over 35 laps around here, so a tyre's going to have to do 70 laps, which round this circuit is a tough ask, considering only 3 years ago we were using 2 extra sets. And so therefore, from the tyre development point of view, they've been doing a heck of a job, but you know, it means that the drivers and the teams are going to have to work a wee bit harder, as the tyres do too.
Of course, with this long straight, although the brakes and everything else get a long chance to cool down with all the cooling airflow, as the speed builds, the tyre rotates and grows and gets pretty hot as well.
Yeah, but it's when it comes into the braking area, it's the surface of the tyre is that little bit cooler, and you've got to be a little careful with the rise up of the brake temperature. The grab of the brake can easily lock a front tyre.
Maxime Martin has pitted after that effort. That's got him third fastest of the 2 lap cars, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Fourth on scoring at the moment. Meantime, Marcus Sorensen improved last time around. He tripled the average gap to the second place car in qualifying at the moment, the 82, but bearing in mind the original gap was just 66 thousandths, it's under 2/10.
Well, Louise has been beavering. She found out the 95 Aston Martin of Sorensen also had a set of sticker tyres on, so they're putting in a lap or two just to try and get themselves as much elbow room as they can at the front of the Pro Class grid. I shouldn't have started that, should I?
So there's the 67 Ford coming down into turn 1. The 66 teammate had a bad middle sector. Olivier Pla in that car dropped half a second somewhere in the middle sector, and his final sector is not ideal, puts him 9th place overall right now. 67 is the one that looks as if it's going to be a charge from Ford, it's going to be from them.
WEC, we've seen some changes in the way the teams actually approach strategy with this twin qualifying setup. Maxime Martin came in there from, well, 3rd quickest, having found some pace in the Aston Martin. That car is not on pit road. Louise, has that car gone back out?
Alex Lynn's got in and it's gone back out. They put another set on, but cleaned up set.
Basically what you can do is if you use a tyre, you can take it off and you basically have like a heat gun and scrape the rubber, the surface rubber, which is very often pick up and everything else off it, and then it sort of refreshes the tyre very, very slightly to look to have another go. But what you do is you try, even if you've got one guy in and he doesn't quite get the lap time, it's sometimes more beneficial for him to get back in the car and to go again than necessarily have your second driver who's got a good lap time to keep on pushing and maybe gain a 10th of a second.
Well,
somebody that's pushing very aggressively is a 98 here.
Yeah, very much so.
You know, Paul Dall'Alana, the car's moving around a lot as Nicky Team's jumping up and down. Bit of emotion in the pits there from Nicky.
Well, that's the fastest car in the AM class, so they've currently got pole in Pro with Aston Martin and in AM with the 98 Aston Martin. Jörg Bergmeister here for Team Project One is trying to shuffle them up the order. And the gap between the drivers was bigger between Alex Lynn in the 97 and Nicky Team in the 95 than it was between Lynn's teammate Maxime Martin and Nicky Team's teammate Marco Sorensen. So Alex is going out to try and narrow that gap because it's his side of the court, if you like, that has sort of given away more ground to their rivals. So Aston Martin looking for an AM class pole and conceivably 1-2 in the Pro class as well here.
I'll tell you something else, talking about Pro, 66 and 92 have had their laps deleted, so are down in 17th and 18th. There is now 2 minutes 37 seconds to go, and just looking at the screen, then the 66 is about halfway round the lap, so he'll get a lap in, and the Kevin Estre in the 92 car is coming on to the start and finish straight now, so they'll be able to get another go in, but they've got to be very careful. They've got to make this one count, or they'll be starting much further back than what they should be.
Yeah.
Martin Tomczyk on the right, Tom Blomqvist on the left there, eagerly looking at the screens.
All right, well, Kevin Estre's done a lap and moves them up to 9th in the Pro class in front of all the AMs, but Olivier Pla still needs to find that. Otherwise, he will be starting 18th of 19 GT cars.
But he's got a good lap. His middle sector is about 4-5 tenths off
But
what it should be.
First sector wasn't even as good as anything they've done before either. So, what about Alex Lynn?
Tell you a person that's going quickly now is Team Project One, Jörg Bergmeister. And that's the car we're looking for coming out the last corner. He's done his quickest in the first and second sector. He's now got the long run down to start-finish straight. It's one where you're now into top gear, just waiting, looking at the delta time, hoping.
Fifth fastest moves up one spot to 4th. So at the moment, Dempsey Proton's 88 car has jumped ahead of the 98 Aston Martin. And the second driver there, Satoshi Hoshino. So 88 is top in AM, ahead of 98 and 77.
Here we've got the 67 that's on a quick lap, very good first sector, second sector, I think he got traffic there, and so that's dropped off. The other one that's quick is Aston Martin with Alex Lynn, and he's on a very quick first sector as well. Looks like the 66, the sister Ford car, is not going to be able to make it. But I would think that Lynn is the one that's going to have any sort of charge right now, looking at the lap times.
The 82 BMW has pitted. He will not improve, so it's a sitting target, duck if you like, for the Aston Martin. If he can make the required improvement, Harry Tincknell will come through and will start another flying lap. It's 20 seconds on the clock.
Second sector for Alex Lynn, 0.6 away from the fastest of all, but will it be an improvement for their car? There's the current pole sitter, 95 Aston. As you say, the 82 BMW, which is second quickest, is also in the garage or on the pit lane, and Alex Lynn comes across the line in a moment or two. He's in sector 3. And there is Jörg Bergmeister, the Team Project 1 Porsche, heading to the pit lane, or is he? Is he going to complete another lap?
No, he's into
No,
the
he's
pit lane.
pulled off to the right, so it's all about Alex Lynn.
Also in pit lane, Paul Dell'Anna will not improve, will stay second.
So Alex Lynn has taken the checkered flag. Final sector was a 55.77 compared to a 45.38 of the fastest final sector of all. So it is Nicky Thiem and Marco Sorensen who will start on the GTE Pro Class pole for Aston Martin Racing. BMW M-Tech's Antonio Felix da Costa and Tom Blomqvist. There they are. They will be second on the grid. And in third will be Maxime Martin and Alex Lynn in their Aston Martin. Harry Tincknell, the 67 Ford shares with Andy Priaulx fourth. Any improvement here? No, heading into the pit lane. Everybody, so Nicky Katzberg there heading into the pits in the 81 BMW. They will start from 7th behind the two Ferraris. 71 ahead of 51. But the Dane train claim pole position here in Japan for Aston Martin Racing. So that's the first part of the job done. Max Velti down there in the BMW garage. So Aston Martin, BMW, Aston Martin, the top three.
Louise Beckett on the right-hand side. I tell you what, they're happy Danes.
Hug with a small child down in the garage. There's John Gore, the head of Aston Martin Racing, and Paul Dell'Anna offers his congratulations. Let's catch up with Louise with our pole sitters.
It's bear hugs all round. Nicky Thiem, great performance.
Yeah, it's just so nice, so emotional. It's the first pole for the new car. It's just great to finally slowly getting there, getting the potential out of the car. I know it's a long race, but this means so much to us. We've been struggling so much. Spa, Lamorne, Silverstone, we were there, but now it seems like we can finally get up there.
Looking forward to the race tomorrow. Silly question, I'm sure.
Yes, of course, and thanks to all the fans coming out. It's amazing always to come here to Japan. So friendly, so nice, and yeah, appreciate it.
See you tomorrow.
So hence the celebrations. First pole for the new car. Graham Gooden hadn't sort of really focused on that, but of course, as he said, introducing a brand new car, it's really sort of a 2-year program to get it fully up to speed and to really understand the new car. So that first pole, important blow for them.
Massive effort from Aston Martin Racing GTE car here in its first professional campaign. The GT3 car making its debut, the GT4 car on the way with its new shape Vantage. The other point here, with those top three in particular, the Aston Martin from the BMW M8 GT, the other new car of course this year, then the second Aston Martin, an utter reversal of fortune from Lamorne.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to our pole sitters from Aston Martin Racing, Nicky Thiem, Marco Sorensen ahead of Tom Blomqvist and Antonio Felix da Costa's BMW, with Alex Lynn and Maxime Martin in the second of the Aston Martin Racing GTE Pro cars, ahead of the better of the two Fords, Chip Ganassi Racing car of Andy Priaulx and Harry Tincknell. The Ferraris next up with Sam Bird and Davide Rigon ahead of Alessandro Pierguidi and James Calado's 51 World Championship winning car from last season. Best of the Porsches, the better of the cars, was the 91 car in 8th position. So Porsche struggling here for qualifying pace, but in free practice they seem to be a little quicker than that, so in the race they should be better on. In the AM class, Porsche versus Aston Martin, 3 Porsches in the top 4 and 2 Aston Martins in the top 5. 98 beaten by the Dempsey Proton 88 car to pole position, with the 77 car lining up in 3rd place ahead of Project One. So we have dealt with our GT cars. Now we head into prototype qualifying with the LMP1 and the LMP2 cars going together. And the reason for this, of course, is that so there's a little bit less traffic out on track, Alan, and particularly on a really hot qualifying lap, you don't want big closing speeds between a slow GT car coming out of the pits and a really fast hybrid on full boost.
No, it's how it would be in the race, and that they'll have to deal with that. However, qualifying's always been separated so that you've got the cleanest run, because qualifying's just about being fastest over that very short period, 1 lap each, whereas the race is about so many different factors and dynamics. And so it's a nice point that you get to stretch your legs in an LMP car without having to consider too much on traffic, but I think you're still going to have some traffic factors around here in qualifying.
Well, let's get down to Dempsey Proton Racing. Louise Beckett ready to speak to our pole sitters in the GTE AM class.
Matt Cairoli, a great qualifying performance from both of you in the 88.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Oshino did the pole today. I mean, I could not put the lap together, unfortunately. I was maybe overdriving a little bit too much. But Oshino did a brilliant lap, so I'm really happy that he's my teammate for this weekend. So it's just performing super well. It's good because, I mean, now we were struggling a little bit with the car yesterday, and we are step by step we are getting better. So I think we can be good tomorrow.
His experience here is obviously helping him with that pole time. Is it helping you with his knowledge?
Yeah, actually, he has a lot of experience here on this track. For me, it's the 2nd time that I'm racing here, but last year I could not drive in dry conditions, so it's something new for me. But if he's teaching me, I will listen to him because he's really experienced here, and it's great.
Thank you very much.
That's an echo of what's going on here in this booth. For me, it's the first time at Fuji in the dry, and I've got the experience of Alan McNish alongside, so whatever he says goes. If he gets some dodgy hot coffee in a plastic bottle out of a vending machine, then okay, fair enough.
Works for me.
That works for me as well.
Learned everything I know about Japanese vending machines from Alan McNish.
Okay, that's where that conversation ends. No, not one word more. I don't think we need to incriminate anybody there. Ready. Satoshi Hoshino, son of Katsuyoshi Hoshino, you know, that's another famous racing dynasty here. Racing driver, team owner, Katsuyoshi Hoshino. So lots of family experience here in racing in Japan.
Yeah, Hoshino-san was, when I was coming through the categories, he was the first real Japanese that made it into Europe and also into Formula One in the 70s.
Yep.
And before Satoru Nakajima, which I think most people will remember as the guy that opened the gate for the Japanese drivers. In reality, it was Hoshino-san.
Yep.
And still, when he was into his 50s, he was winning races. The guy was extremely talented. And obviously there's been a few genes that have flowed through in the same way it has for Mr. Nakajima, whose son is driving in the Toyota and there's a very good chance of taking pole position here.
Absolutely right. Again, for our prototypes, a 20-minute session. And they will hope to get their laps in before any rain arrives.
2 SMP cars out straight away and then the Rebellion behind them. The SMPs have had the speed advantage again over the Rebellion round here. They look as if they're very difficult to drive, and I'd love to get an onboard if Vitaly Petrov's driving, because you can see the onboard how much he's really having to work in the car in the intensity of his face, but at the same time they're getting the lap time out of it, so I think for qualifying they'll be the charge to Toyota.
Cars. Under 1 minute to start the qualifying for LMP cars.
Well, this happened on Friday. The 24-hour LMP2 Lamorne Winners Trophy being handed by the president of the ACO, Automobile Club de l'Ouest, that organises the Le Mans 24 Hours, and the rights for the FIWEC, handing it to Senior Tech Alpine, confirmed as the team that won Le Mans in LMP2. Of the cars car that took the flag first, the TDS Racing G-Drive car, was excluded from the results for a change to the fuel system that the organisers said was not legal.
Yeah, it's taken a little while for the FI Court of Appeal to get to that result, but
10, 9,
winners confirmed.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green, start of qualifying for LMP cars. Again, remind drivers any laps which we see or which are reported by being done beyond track limits will be immediately deleted.
That's been shown so far, hasn't it? There was a litany of that happening in GTE.
Well, what they want is when the checkered flag comes out for there to be a grid that everybody sees happen and then doesn't get retrenched. So Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso head out on track. Is it time now for the Fernando stats? Shall we trot them out again? 10 years ago yesterday, October the 12th, Fernando Alonso won the Japanese Grand Prix here at Fuji in a Renault. And Fernando Alonso also the only man to have won Japanese Grand Prix on 2 different tracks, because he also won the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka.
Absolutely. Dragon Speed just heading out, little after the train, and a change for Dragon Speed the latter part of this weekend thus far. Started the weekend running the full Lamorne Aero Spec, but has now switched to the Sprint pack. On balance. See, the thing is, Vitaly Petrov has got that look when he's not in the car.
Yes. Well, you know how sometimes when people put on a helmet, it sort of shows their cheeks up and they get that sort of chubby cheek look. He looks 10 years older when he's got a helmet out, because he has got a sort of baby face. He still looks very young as a racing driver who's done all the miles he's done. But in a race helmet, he looks older than his years.
Just look at the front of that car as Jenson Button's coming down into turn 1. The front of it's porpoising straight away. We said it was quite difficult to drive, and there's the sister car of Sarrazin behind them. But with the low tyre pressures he will have at this moment in time, they won't be quite up to peak. Then it just starts to bounce, and you'll see the car sort of got a lot of vertical movement bouncing on the tyre. And that'll be fine for 1 lap, you can hang on to it, but for the race itself, then it'll mean that their energy levels are going to be quite high.
Worth saying, by the way, in the minutes before the qualifying session, we have had a very late equivalency technology change for the non-hybrid cars. Additional energy offered per lap and per stint. We'll talk about still some disquiet amongst the privateers, perhaps a race day, but they're looking to make a bit of a splash in qualifying if they can.
I think the chances of actually making a splash and jumping ahead of the 2 Toyotas, in all honesty, are pretty minimal. The Toyotas are much quicker in this final sector here. Sector 1 and 2 is kind of similar, but when it comes to Sector 3, this sector, then the Toyotas just eat up the circuit in comparison to the SMPs and also the Rebellion behind them.
They've got all that traction through the twisty stuff in Sector 3, and they can boost out the final corner. Again, you can see the car chattering all the way down the straight, Alan.
Yeah, it's just starting to bounce. It's a long straight. You try to run the car as low as possible for the cornering grip. At the same time, you have got these little bumps coming onto the track, and once it starts, and there's one about the start-finish line, and once you get to there, then it can start to set off an oscillation. Then it's until you brake and come out of that frequency of oscillation, then you kind of just sit with it.
Number 3 Rebellion had an engine change between free practice 3 and the race and the qualifying session, so they've just got that car back together. And you saw as he started his flying lap in number 3 car, Gustavo Menezes going by the second of the Toyotas, which was just easing its way out of the pit lane. So Toyota coming out a lap behind everybody else.
Gustavo Menezes is quickest at the moment. It's a 1:24.715 for the American, of course, previous LMP2 champion in the WEC.
2 battles going on really in the LMP1, the cars with the red numbers, or the red splash alongside their numbers, which Toyota claims pole, and whether the Rebellions are faster than the SMPs. I mean, those are the 2 battles going on there. And the Bicolis car number 4 also trying to catch them.
And here we've got coming across the line Vaxavi, who was very quick this morning in the TDS car.
At the moment. Anthony Davidson fastest in LMP2, car number 31, but again you can see the chatter there on the ripples all the way down the hill into the first corner underneath Mathieu Vazivière for TDS Racing. Jenson Button quickest at the moment for SMP, ahead of Gustavo Menezes. Then Stefan Sarazan in the number 17 SMP car, ahead of the number 10 Dragon Speed. That's a Dallara chassis, like the SMP cars. Ben Hanley in that.
And Jasmine Jafar's in the 37 Jackie Chan DC Racing car, coming out of the final corner onto the start-finish straight. Pretty good lap, actually, from Jafar. He's third quickest at the moment. This is going to be quicker for him as long as he's hit the final sector, okay? And that puts him up a place. He's now second overall. Man that is very, very quick is Fernando Alonso, quickest in the first and second sectors. Here we are on board with him into the last part of the third sector. He's got a left and a right to go. Comes into the apex, gently over the crest of the rise, into the final corner, wide, and it's an ever-ending corner, and you've just got to try and get back to that point to get onto the power. Short shift, and now he's on his way.
In the first two sectors, Jose Maria Lopez 0.09 of a second slower over the 2 sectors combined, so not far away. Toyota goes fastest. Lopez entering the final sector. He's got to get sub 40 seconds in sector 3 to jump Alonso in car number 8.
It's Alonso from Button at the moment. That's a nice time. It's great to see. 2 of 5 FI World Champions on track right now. 2 Formula 1 World Champions, 2 World Endurance Champions, and a World Touring Car Champion in Pachito Lopez.
Lopez slower by 0.2 of a second there to Fernando Alonso. Keiko Ihara lost a lap, so too did James Rossiter, who's back with the Bicoles Racing team, car number 40. In fact, James Rossiter has now lost a second lap.
So here we are on board 100R, the long flat-out right-hander. As you can see, just going up into 5th gear before breaking down into the hairpin. As we switch to, this is the Alpine car, the Le Mans winner, as it was confirmed just earlier in the week, and they received their trophy yesterday.
Jenson Button is one and done. He's done his lap, handed over the number 11 car in the pits. So to Anthony Davidson, 1 flying lap, bang, thank you, done, back in the pit lane. 36 car at the moment, only 5th in the LMP2 group with Andre Negrão, but you can see the big black marks he was leaving off the corner there. And again, look at the way that the Rebellion rotates there. Driving off the corner in the number 3 car is Gustavo Menezes.
Everybody coming into the pits now, 12.5 minutes, so by the time they go back out, there'll be about 9 minutes. 10 minutes, probably 9 minutes, and then gives the second driver a decent chance. But also, if he does get a lap in quickly and the first driver hasn't been able to really get the most out of it, a chance to also go back in. Anthony Davidson the left, Pastor Maldonado on the right-hand side of the screen.
Roberto Gonzalez in that red car has already left the pit lane on his out lap as everybody else is filing in, so they're sort of ahead of the game. Here's Keiko Ihara in for Labra competition this weekend. She shares car number 50 with the regular drivers Romano Ricci and Erwan Creed.
Keiko, a previous podium finisher here in LMP2, previous iteration P2 cars.
The Dragon Speed LMP1 entry car number 10 without Henrik Hedman this weekend, so it's a 2-driver lineup in the number 10 car. Ben Hanley being joined by Aussie James Allen.
Just looking at that, he did his fastest sectors on his in-lap there. That's a non-hybrid, so you wouldn't normally expect him to come into the pits if that's the case, because he's 2 seconds off the other similar chassis, different engine, but he's 1.5 seconds off the next car. And so the Dragon Speed car is struggling a little bit with Hanley at the wheel.
Said a little earlier, this is the team that started the weekend using the Lamorne era package. They've switched to the sprint package.
Yeah, but coming here with the Le Mans package isn't enough downforce. Coming here with the sprint package is probably a tad too much, but I would always go for certainly in qualifying, you would go for your sprint package if you were to do it, and then trying to take a little snick out of it. But Le Mans package is not enough for this place.
No, what it showed was blinding speed, of course, which is what the things are designed to do. 201 miles an hour in free practice, 1 through the speed trap.
Andre Lotterer there, going up to third fastest in the #1 Rebellion, as Ben Hanley lost the 5th lap for that car, number 10. So that was his in-lap, I think, so probably didn't matter that much.
Improvement, wasn't it, for Andre Lotterer just then?
Yeah, it was a big improvement. Yeah. They went from 14th out of 15 cars, so behind all the LMP2 cars, bar one, to the top 3.
But significantly within a second of the lead Toyota.
Yeah, but that's roughly where they were this morning. It was about 1 second away from the lead Toyota. There's a Dragon Speed in LMP2, crossing the line. First car to have a second driver do their lap. And so now Gonzalez is at the wheel, silver rated driver, I should say.
Well, interesting little graphic there showed he was 3700ths slower than Anthony Davidson. That's not a bad combination.
Was actually, yeah, but looking at the time there, he's 1.8 seconds.
Okay.
If I look at that.
So what was the graphic showing us then? 28.9 to a 29.8.
That was...
So it's 0.9 slower, yeah.
It should be said, by the way, that was one heck of a lap from Ant Davidson.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a very good lap, let me be honest with you, from Gonzalez as
Absolutely. Well, the fastest lap before this session in LMP2 here, ever, a 1:29.352.
So half a second off the quickest lap before today.
Yeah,
isn't too bad.
Top 5 in the of the first drivers all bettered that previous best lap.
Kamui Kobayashi, purple in Sector 1 in Toyota number 7. That's the car that currently lies second, but he was only 5 thousandths quicker than Sebastian Buemi on that lap, Alan.
Yeah, and so we've had the 2 DC Chan cars just go quickest in LMP2. And so now we're on with car number 8. That's Buemi, Sebastian Buemi, who's at the wheel already quickest at the moment from Fernando Alonso. And he's a little bit quicker than the sister car of Kobayashi in the middle sector. A little bit wide there. He got onto the curb and over the curb, so he'll have lost a fraction of a second.
Yeah, he was 5 thousandths slower than Kobayashi in Sector 1, but he was nearly 2 tenths, or he was a tenth and a half faster in Sector 2, so that's undone all of Kobayashi's good work, who comes out of the final corner behind. So Buemi crosses the line at 23.900. Has Kobayashi got anything more than that? 23.678.
He has in the final sector. Remember, we saw that Buemi got up over the curb and lost some time in the second last corner, and Kobayashi was 4 tenths quicker in that final sector, which means the difference between Buemi on pole, Kobayashi in second is, Martin?
6 thousandths of a second. Kobayashi came up shy there.
Yeah, but I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't matter if it's 6,006 tenths. If you're on pole, you're on pole.
Yep,
and if
absolutely.
it's a point, it's a point.
Absolutely right. So they've both got one more lap, and on the next lap, Kobayashi has not gone purple. He basically needs to do an even better lap. It's not a better lap for the car, so I'm suggesting that's an in lap. Let's get back.
It's a cool lap. This is a cool lap because then they'll go again, so they'll recharge the systems and go again on the next one for that double boost over the start and finish line. So they're about 3 seconds off in the first and now 6-7 seconds off in the second sector.
Gonzalez in the number 31 Dragon Speed car puts in another better lap, and they have now gone to the top of the LMP2 pile, the 31 car.
Sorry, he hasn't improved. What's happened is the rest of the cars have actually put in their second lap.
Right.
So it readjusts. He's not improved. He's not bettered that 1:29.8. But as Alan was saying, that is a very good lap for a gentleman driver.
Sorry, let's go down. T's done a 29.8, 30.2, 30.1, 30.78, 32.1 is all of the other drivers in there. However, now lap 5 has been deleted for Sebastian Buemi, and I presume that's for what we saw on the onboard of him running wide in the second last corner. Here we are again coming out of there, getting up and over the curb, and the white line that is adjacent to the circuit that is defining between the curb and the track is the limit, not the edge of the curb. So he lost time there, but he also has now lost the complete time because the lap's gone.
However, that was...
I don't quite understand what's happened there, because the gap is now wider than it was.
Because it's taken away his lap, so it's back to what the first driver's difference
yes, so they haven't set a second driver
that's
lap.
completely correct.
Let me just explain. We've got a timing system here we're looking at, as well as the pictures, and so therefore deciphering that information. As we look at the Racing Team Netherlands comes out the last corner, and that car is actually last at the moment. Nick de Vries is now in the car, young hotshot from Holland, and in a all-Dutch lineup in that car actually, and Nick's popped it up one place.
Yeah. Yeah, so Sebastian Buemi.
Oh, trouble.
The quick lap he lost, and he's also taken time out of the tyres. That's
Thomas
a Rebellion
Laurent.
that's got a long way off. That's the number 3 car that had the new engine before the session.
That's Thomas Laurent.
That's coming out of the hairpin and getting onto the power, I think, as he's dropped down onto the cold edge of the tyre. It looks like he's stalled. Yeah, he's stalled the car, struggling to get it going, but now he's doing a bit of rallycross and on his way.
Spun again.
So Seb Buemi, at the point at which that lap was deleted, was on pit lane, has now been dispatched again.
Okay.
He didn't spin, he just didn't want to drive it across the grass, I think, so he moved, got it stuck himself, and then did a bit of reversing and then drove across the grass. Thing is, these cars don't have enough lock to drive around your supermarket car park. They're not meant to do that. They're meant to go around big long corners like 100R and not do U-turns.
Well, there's Roberto Gonzalez, who when he got out of the car was on pole, but it's been beaten by the TDS racing car, Francois Perraudot now in the pits.
No, he's not, because it's not set a second time, and Perraudot's just come down pit lane. So there is no second lap time for Francois Perraudot.
Right. So they will start last if they don't set a time.
Ordsev in the SMP just taking a draft off Nick de Vries as they come down start-finish line.
Every little helps, as they say.
Ordsev
and de Vries now towing his way back up behind as well.
So no change in time there between those guys.
But the SMP car 17 is ahead of number 11. So there's Gonzalez, could still end up on pole, as you said, Graham. There is no second time for the TDS car. There's no second driver time for the number 8 Toyota yet either, but it's not in the garage. So
on a flight
lap now.
Yeah.
By Collis crossing the line. By Collis last in category, 8th overall in, and he jumps up. Tom Dillman just jumps ahead of the Dragon Speed car, so now up to 7th place overall. So he flicks it into the first corner. Drops down the hill.
The question is that fumble going to cost the number 8 car?
Buemi's a long way off.
Pole position.
I don't think it's going to be a massive gap, but I'm not sure that he's going to find enough in the final sector to hang on to pole position.
Francois Perraudot, meanwhile, has been dispatched again. You can look at Francois on board.
Yeah. So Sebastian Buemi, the car number 8 Toyota, was fastest with the first driver in and drops down to second place. That deleted time has cost them pole position. The number 8 Toyota 91 thousandths behind. They did have pole by 6 thousandths, but it was a lap where he drifted out wide here. And in fact, that probably cost him time, but it also cost him the lap.
And pole position.
And pole position.
So it's quite an expensive corner in that respect so far, but we've got 2 minutes 17 to go, and there is time to get around on this lap and also to have another flyer as well. Right on the limit of it, but in theory there's time. He currently is halfway around the circuit. We're now looking at Sebastian Buemi coming round, dropping down. Now this is a preparation lap for the next lap. It is not a flying lap. So this is a preparation to go again. And being in the car in that situation, knowing that you've dropped the ball a little bit, and it wasn't a big drop, but it was enough to lose it. You're so annoyed, and you're also so close to your teammate to be able to take that pole. And so now you've got to be very, very careful you don't overdrive into a few corners. Turn 1, braking into turn 1. You've got to hit your marks, and you've got to try and use this car ahead of you as a bit of a slipstream as well, but it's coming into the pits. And so he's still trying to pick up a little bit of a toe from him, as now the Toyota... No, he's coming into the pits as well. Buemi's giving it up. He hasn't gone for it. 1 minute 13 seconds to go.
Well, presumably, I mean, we're talking about thousandths of seconds. Presumably, there's just not those thousandths left in the tyre. They figure, or the team have said, OK, that's it.
I think that would probably come from the team as opposed to come from Sebastian.
So it's number 1 Rebellion, Neil Jarni. Number 3 car is already in the pit lane, 3rd fastest. And so too both Toyotas. So the top 3 are in the pits. 17 is in as well. Igor Orudchev car 7 reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane.
It's our pole sitter at the moment.
Might that?
No.
No, it's money.
Be money.
It's a financial fine.
Yeah.
It's now a bit of oversteer there from Neil Yanni as he comes out into the last corner. Long corner there, a lot of load, trying to get a clean run out. There's a bit of wheel spin as he comes out, a bit of oversteer, but he's now in that position. So he's in 6th place though.
13 seconds,
Thomas Laurent
so he could start one more lap now.
And he improves, he goes 3rd.
Wow, okay, so Rebellion behind Toyota, and Toyota ahead of SMP.
Should say, by the way, Francois Perrodo has set a lap time now. That's the whole prototype field set those 2 lap times, but has, of course, dropped back. At the moment, 5th quickest, 1:32.8 for Francois.
And here's the Dragon Speed in LMP1 coming in, who's last in category in 8th place, and their sister car in LMP2 is first in category in LMP2 in 9th.
So they're nose to tail, 8th and 9th. The 2 Dragon Speed cars, but the number 10 car losing its last flying lap with track limits exclusion there. I think that's each of the drivers in the number 10 car lost a lap. Either that or James Allen. I actually think James Allen lost 2.
Anthony Davidson, quickest lap time scored in LMP2, a 1:28.011, substantially quicker than anybody else in the class.
Very impressive. So number 1 car heading back to the pit lane. Neil Jani and his teammates have locked out row 2 of the grid. Toyota have locked out the first row, then 17 and 11. SMP Racing will fill row 3 of the grid with Bicoles and Dragon Speed completing the LMP1 field on row 4. Row 5 will feature Dragon Speed and the 37 Jackie Chan DC racing car. That's the all-Malaysian crew, ahead of the 38 Jackie Chan and Signatech Alpine number 36. Then TDS and Racing Team Netherlands, ahead of the number 50 Labra competition car. Well, let's get down to the Toyota garage. Our pole sitters, car number 7, Louise Beckett, is with Kamui Kobayashi.
Well, Kamui, the photographers are waiting for you. You've got to be pleased with that performance on home ground.
Well, I mean, I think, Jose had a pretty good lap, and obviously we keep same tires, so, I think lap time was, it's not like to improve as much as we expected, but, in terms of like second, same tap, which is used tires, obviously I think lap time pretty good, and I think for Seb it's quite bad luck for the delayed lap time. But this is obviously the race, and I think he did a good lap time as well. So I had a little bit of luck, but still this is qualified. Let's see it for tomorrow.
Can we expect to see a good battle between the 7 and 8?
As usual.
Thank you.
So Kamui Kobayashi will be well received by the fans as the number 7 Toyota ends up on top in pole position. He's at the second fastest lap time of all the Toyota drivers during free practice 3. Only Fernando Alonso managed a lap that was quicker. And the number 7 Toyota claim pole position. Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, Jose Maria Lopez are the trio. And there will be an awful lot of Toyota Gazoo Racing fans that will be very pleased to see their cars first and second on the grid. Graham Goodwin, I'm sure that will make an awful lot of headlines on the TV news tonight here in Japan.
Indeed, there's people, as we left last night, queuing at the gates, as we've often seen ahead of qualifying day. Lots of fan activity here as well, queuing overnight to get into their favourite spots at Fuji Speedway, and I'm expecting exactly the same tonight with a lot of the guys looking for coming to race day.
Toyotas from Rebellions, from SMP, from the rest of the field, Bicoles and Dragon Speed, and as you pointed out, Dragon Speed 8th, Dragon Speed 9th, as they also claim pole position in P2 from the Jackie Chan DC racing cars, and Signatech Alpine in 4th place. So let's get down to Dragon Speed, our LMP2 pole sitters, and hear from Anthony Davidson.
Okay. Well, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's the first time I've driven the car on low fuel in quali and the new tyres, so yeah, it's a really good feeling.
You've got a big smile on your face. Okay, that's probably for the pole, but also how is it driving in the LMP2s?
Yeah, actually, it's a more challenging car than the LMP1. It's you know, you've got all the little tools to help you in the P1 class, especially in the hybrid class. So yeah, you really have to work for it in the P2 class. But it's good fun. It's yeah, it's nice and challenging.
Okay, I'll leave you to celebrate and have your photo taken with the team.
Thanks very much.
Great work by Anthony as well. There was no second bite of that cherry. Out, bang, done. Hand over to Roberto Gonzalez. And in the white jacket, of course, they'll be joined by Pastor Maldonado. How is that hard to say? How did I fall over his name? In the race. So they are the team that will start on pole. And hence the Mexican flags there for Roberto Gonzalez.
The thought occurs again, he's another FIA World Champion. I don't think there's been a championship with as many.
Qualifying at Fuji Speedway for round 4 of the FIA WEC Super Season. First cars out in the GT class, the GT Pros and the GTE AMs, heading out onto a dry Fuji Speedway. Temperatures not hot, but the weather was good. In the GTE AM class, Porsche looked to be the dominant force, battling with Aston Martin. 2 Astons, 3 Porsches in the top of the pile. The 77 Dempsey Proton car went third fastest. 98 Aston Martin looked for a long while as though they would claim another pole, but in the end it was 88 from Dempsey Proton that romped to the top of the tree, and they will start the GTE AM race from pole. Aston Martin looking fast with both their cars in the GTE Pro class, and again both of them finishing in the top 3. Between them was the better of the BMWs. The 82 car went second quickest, but it was an Aston on pole. The Dane train, Nicky Thiem and Marco Sorensen claiming the first pole for the brand new Aston Martin Vantage GTE here at Fuji. A 20-minute session then for the prototype qualifying, LMP2s and LMP1s sharing the same track.
Qualifying for LMP cars. Again, remind drivers.
2 battles in the P1 class, essentially who was going to be better of the Toyotas, who was going to be best of the rest. And in the LMP2 class, the Jackie Chan DC Racing All Malaysian crew ending up second fastest. But it was a great combination of Anthony Davidson and Roberto Gonzalez who put Dragon Speed's number 31 car on top of the pile. They will start the race from the LMP2 pole with teammate Pastor Maldonado. In the P1 class, a late flying lap put the Rebellions on the second row of the grid. Neil Jani in the number 1 car going third quickest to be the closest challenger to Toyota. 8 tenths away from the fastest car, but it was a mistake by Sebastian Buemi on his quickest lap that cost him pole position. He ended up second fastest. However, it's the number 7 car, Kamui Kobayashi, Jose Maria Lopez and Mike Conway who will start Fuji from pole. And that brings our qualifying coverage to an end after the Toyotas dominated as expected. And the answer to the battle of the rest, at least in qualifying in LMP1, is that the Rebellions outpaced the SMP cars. And if you looked at them on track, you would think that was likely to happen. The Rebellions looked like a more comfortable car to drive than the SMP Racing Delaras, and by Colles and Dragon Speed the remainder of the field there. And Graham Goodwin, surprises in the P2 class? I'm not sure. I think it's just about who gets the better laps in rather than which car or team is on top of the pile.
Well, oddly, we've got Toyota's 1-2 and a Toyota driver that really grabbed pole position in P2. Great to see Davidson unlocking the code in P2. I know he had a bit of a struggle at Silverstone and absolutely fundamentally did not struggle there. The story for me in P1 is it's the wrong Toyota on top, because that means that the points difference stays at just 3 points in the Drivers' Championship. So the additional point did not go to Fernando Alonso and co, so that keeps it quite tight.
Additional point went into the wrong trousers.
It did.
Very good. And so Aston Martin looking strong in both our GTE classes, but they've got a battle on their hands, and hopefully if the weather plays nice, we will have a dry 6 hours of Fuji tomorrow. Don't forget that you will be able to see entire live coverage from lights to flag. We'll see you then. Bye for now.